Malaysia has recorded a video message for us, which we will be sharing later. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Mark Wu, to say a few words.
Good morning, selamat pagi semua. Thank you so much for coming, friends of the media, Googlers as well, especially Tan Sri Tony Fernandez for making the time. It is an important milestone in the history of Google Malaysia. Just very excited to be here today. But before I get into the details, before we share more, please indulge me in a little walk down memory lane. So we started operations in Malaysia in 2011, early 2011. So in less than 6 months' time, we will be celebrating our 12th-year anniversary. It's been an interesting ride. It's been a thrilling ride. But I want to take a moment to sort of reflect on things that we've done, the commitments that we've sort of invested in Malaysia. One is on SMEs. So SMEs, as we know, is the bedrock of the economy. Proud to say that we've trained over 40,000 SMEs to date, especially in the past 3 years, where we help SMEs transform their businesses, help them with the digital tools as well as their employees to become more and more equipped with the skill sets that is required for the next 10 years. YouTube, I hope it's everyone's favorite video platform. It's certainly mine. It's a platform where Malaysians go for education, they go for inspiration, they go for information. It's also an economic engine for Malaysia. Malaysians do make money. YouTube creators do make money on YouTube. Just last year, we had over 60% more Malaysians who earn more than 10,000 ringgit on YouTube. And in the tourism and travel sector, we've partnered with Motec, we've partnered with MDEC, we've partnered with Mata to help the travel agents specifically to sort of capture the rise of consumers who are using internet more to make their travel bookings. And partners as well like AirAsia Academy, where we have the privilege of bringing to life a program with them to help Malaysians learn new skills in the digital world, right? So looking ahead, the future is very much digitally led. I'll share a couple of data points. One is our estimates with Bain and Temasek, where the Malaysia digital economy will be more than 300 billion ringgit by 2030, right? And we saw just in the past couple of years, 3 million Malaysians coming online for the first time to purchase goods and services. 3 million Malaysians, that's 10% of the population. And when we did the survey post that, over 98% of them say that they will continue to use the digital services to buy goods. So I guess what we need to do is sort of accelerate that movement is certainly improve access, which Malaysia is well on its way, as well as a workforce that is ready for the next 8 to 10 years. That's why just a couple of weeks ago, we launched this program called Gemilang. Gemilang is where we are offering Google Career Certs, Google Cloud curriculums in fields like UX design, digital marketing, e-commerce to Malaysians of all background and all walks of life. We've also created an employee consortium where we partnered with 20 brands, 20 companies in Malaysia to match Malaysians who are certified, qualified, with jobs that are relevant for the digital economy. On top of that, we also recognize that there are Malaysians that can't afford such a course and don't have ready access to take the certification. That's why, and we've launched 31,000 scholarships to these less fortunate individuals. So we do see enormous potential to empower more Malaysians and to help ensure that Malaysia becomes a technology leader in the global circuit. So today we'll be outlining how we plan to deepen our commitment across some priority areas through Google Cloud. a bit of a background as to Google, what Google Cloud is. You know, many of y'all are familiar, and I hope you all use Google Search, YouTube, Maps, and my favorite, Google Photos, to sort of like serve the billions of consumers around the world, to delight the billions of consumers around the world with our products and services. We had to achieve a very, very high level of security, scalability, and reliability on our internal IT infrastructure. So we asked ourselves, what if we expand this capability to businesses across the world, right? And that's how Google Cloud started. So today we have banks who reduce fraud through cloud technologies. We have telcos, telecommunication companies that store their customer data in a safe and secure environment. And we have AI technology to help increase yield of crops in the agriculture sector, right? So a large part of our presence and our ongoing commitment is very much in line with our mission here in Malaysia, that is to advance Malaysia together. This time round, going forward, it involves one of the largest infrastructure investment that were made in Malaysia. I'm excited to share more, but before I do, I just want to say thank you again for coming. Thank you to Tan Sri Tony for giving us the time, and I'll pass it over to Rama to share more details about the investment going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, and a big welcome and thank you as well to Tony and Hari from Capital A. It is absolutely an honor to welcome you both here. And also welcome to our guests from the media. My name is Rama Balasubramanian, and it's an absolute honor for me to share with you about how Google Cloud intends to power new digital possibilities in Malaysia for Malaysia. And I want to share a little bit with you about the potential of the digital economy and why we are making this investment and announcing this investment today here in KL. So if we go to the next slide, as Mark alluded to earlier, Malaysia has emerged from the pandemic with the potential to become one of the world's digitally competitive countries. And I want to take a step back a little bit and talk about the two big factors that really contribute to this. First and foremost, it's really about consumerization. And you know, if I just sort of take a step back and think about all of the ways that consumerization has impacted all of you, even this morning, let's just think about it. You know, you probably got here by using a car or booking a car on AirAsia Ride. You know, a super app that you probably have on your phone. Now I know that in order to be here today, I actually had to book a flight and a hotel on a online travel platform. Now this evening, we all might get together and we might call for a takeout, and we might book that again through an app. And between all of these, we're probably going online to listen to music or to watch YouTube to really stay entertained. Now, these are all very simple examples, but it contributes to this idea that 8 out of 10 Malaysians are now using digital services and plan to do so in the future. So it's a really compelling reason in terms of consumerization as we really think about it. Now, there are 5 big characteristics, though, about consumerization that we think are really critical. Now, when we think about these digital services, the 5 characteristics are first and foremost that these digital services are always on. You can access them at any time of day or night. Secondly, they actually know who you are. They're incredibly personalized. Third, they're really, really simple. In fact, they're simply apps on your phone. And they're very, very secure. Each of the companies that actually sits behind these apps takes our personal data very, very seriously, and they protect that data. And finally, all of these digital capabilities are actually enabled by cloud technologies. Cloud technologies are absolutely the best way to store and organize petabytes of data, but you can be data rich and information poor. So I want to take a moment and really talk about this concept of personalization. And I want to use a very simple example if we go to the next slide on YouTube. So imagine that you're a new YouTube user. Now I know many of you already have YouTube and you've got a playlist already set. But if you're a new user to YouTube, you've got a default playlist. Now you search for a music video and then your playlist actually starts to change automatically. The next time you log in, YouTube shows you the first music videos that are actually similar to the one that you searched for last time. So this is a very simple way to think about personalization. Now, if you translate that into the enterprise space, imagine that you're an enterprise that wants to tailor their products and services in very much the same way that YouTube customizes playlists for its users. You have to understand your customer as much as possible. So there's a deep customer knowledge that you need to have. And that's where services like data and analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning become very, very essential. So this is the idea of consumerization and personalization. So I want to really sort of step back now and think about how this applies overall to the country of Malaysia. Because if we go to the next slide, digital transformation has become a strategic imperative for every single business that's in Malaysia looking to stay competitive. And there's three specific factors that I want to talk about here. First and foremost, Malaysia's digital economy is set to be worth 35 billion US dollars. Now this is really what Mark had talked about earlier, and that's by 2025. Now beyond this local opportunity though, Malaysia sits within a very, very robust Southeast Asia ecosystem. And that digital economy is expected to hit 363 billion US dollars and also reach a value of US $1 trillion by the end of the decade, by 2030. And finally, digital transformation, if leveraged fully, could create up to 61.3 billion US dollars in annual economic value in Malaysia by 2030. And that's the equivalent of 17% of the local GDP in 2020. So these are really important figures because it really talks about what an amazing digital ecosystem that sits here in Malaysia today. But there's a second key factor that's incredibly important for us as we think about our future investments, and that is the support of government policies. Now, if we think about government support and the drive towards digitization in the national economy, there's really two key areas that are really critical to us. So the first one is that as part of the national investment aspirations of the country, the government is attracting high-quality technology investments to supercharge local innovation, and this is part of a concerted national strategy. The second thing is that it's also implementing the My Digital Nationwide Blueprint. And again, that's really set to transform Malaysia into a digitally driven and high-income nation. In fact, a regional leader in the digital economy. And that's set to occur by 2030. So all of these factors around government support and government initiatives, and in fact, this real impetus to drive digitization in Malaysia is a huge factor for us. Now, what you might be asking is, what's the third factor? And if you go to the next slide, what I'll tell you is that de facto, Google Cloud really aims to be that third factor. Because we believe that by being this third factor will help Malaysia fulfill its potential of becoming one of the world's most digitally competitive countries. Now, as Mark mentioned earlier, Google has invested very heavily in its own IT infrastructure. And by offering the same level of security, scalability, and reliability to enterprises, we're providing a simpler, faster, and more cost-efficient way for organizations of all sizes to achieve their desired outcomes. And I want to share with you three specific examples of customers that we're working with very, very closely. So if you go to the next slide, here are the three examples. First and foremost, Maxis. Now, since 2019, Maxis has fully adopted Google Cloud's data analytics, AI, and ML capabilities. And by 2021, they actually made a 100% commitment to put all of their data workloads onto Google Cloud. And if you spin this out into the future, you can imagine that they could be able to fast-track the rollout of AI-powered contact center services to enhance the customer experience and to enhance customer satisfaction. The other work that we're doing with them is around 5G. We're working with them to build out 5G use cases and really bring that to the commercial market. The second example is another highly regulated industry, and that's KPJ Healthcare. Now, as we all, as consumers, seek greater convenience and accessibility, even in how we access healthcare, KPJ Healthcare aims to establish itself as the forefront of health tech, a sector that's expected to become a significant part of the digital economy by 2030. The largest provider of public healthcare services in Malaysia, KPJ Healthcare is not just using Google Workspace to transform how its employees collaborate, it's also using Google Meet to deliver secure teleconsultation services for continuous patient care. And finally, moving on to chocolate, hopefully that's a topic that everyone is excited about. JB Cocoa, which is a major cocoa ingredients producer with roots in Malaysia, relies on Google Cloud to attain its sustainability goals. Having migrated its supply chain systems onto Google Cloud, which is powered by 100% renewable energy, JB Cocoa is now contributing to its downstream customers' carbon emissions reduction targets. And this is something that they really talk to their customers about very, very overtly. It's also using Google Cloud data management capabilities to ensure that it's sourcing cocoa beans from traceable and sustainable farms, while identifying and addressing issues of deforestation and child labor in its supply chain. Now you're going to hear just a few minutes, another great example from Tony on capital A as well. Now we believe that digital transformation isn't simply about identifying business challenges and solving them. It's also about really getting to business outcomes, about how our customers increase revenue, increase market share, by also remaining operationally efficient and also staying within regulatory frameworks. So I've covered three very specific industries: telco, healthcare, and manufacturing and supply chain. And there's lots and lots of other transformation stories that we can share with you as well. So now we've talked a little bit about why Malaysia is such an important market for us. We've talked about some of the important foundations that we think about from a customer perspective, which basically takes me to the next point, which is one that we're really proud of. And that is that Google Cloud is very proud to be bringing its first cloud region to Malaysia to meet the growing demand for cloud services. And again, we're very, very proud of this announcement. And what I want to share with you is a few details of what we'll be delivering as a result of this public cloud region. So I want to talk a little bit about the organizations that we work with and their strategic priorities, because I think understanding those is going to be really critical in sharing with you the benefits of having a public cloud region here in Malaysia. So in short, to define it a little bit, a cloud region is cloud infrastructure that's dedicated to serving Google Cloud customers, through which organizations of all sizes can leverage our on-demand cloud services to address really 5 strategic priorities. The first one is understanding and using data for smarter business decisions in real time. And what we like to talk about is this idea of democratizing data, to make sure that every employee in every organization has access to the right data and is able to really bring the best of that data in serving their customers and stakeholders. The second key strategic priority is establishing an open and flexible foundation to adapt as business needs evolve, while enabling software developers to build apps and services faster and more intuitively. And this is the reason why developers love to build on Google Cloud. It's really because we can help them build apps and services faster and more efficiently. The third area is on transforming the way employees connect, create, and collaborate, whether they're returning to the office, working from home, or serving customers on the front line. Fourth, securing systems and users. Now we all know that security is paramount. So what we're doing is using the same infrastructure and security services that Google uses for its own global operations, and for many of the apps that we all know and love, whether that's Google Chrome or Mark's favorite app, which is Google Photos. All of these are really sitting on the same kind of infrastructure that we're going to be bringing to bear for our customers here in Malaysia. And finally, the last benefit that I want to talk about is decarbonization and how we help customers build a greener future through their greener business operations, as well as building more sustainability into those operations. And we have very specific technologies like carbon footprint, active assist, and earth engine to help our customers do exactly that. Now, you might be also wondering about some specific benefits as we think about these strategic priorities. And if we go to the next slide, I wanted to talk about three that you might be interested in. The first area here is, and to note, is that we will be delivering faster and more reliable access to these services. They'll be less expensive than what organizations can build themselves without having to build it themselves on premises. And a cloud region will also enable customers to meet local regulatory and compliance requirements and provide more disaster recovery options across the Asia Pacific region. In addition to this public cloud region, we are also announcing as a key feature 3 availability zones. And what that means for our highly regulated customers is that they will have the ability to back up their critical customer and stakeholder data on other availability zones as they work with Google Cloud. Now, we're also very excited about the expanded network that our Malaysia Public Cloud region will be part of. Now, you can see by this chart here that there are 34 public cloud regions that Google Cloud has across the world. 11 of those regions are actually located in the Asia Pacific region. We have 2 additional regions here in Southeast Asia, including our region in Singapore, as well as our region in Jakarta, Indonesia. In addition to that, we'll also be part of Google Cloud's global network of cloud regions. You see there 34 regions, 103 availability zones, 143 network edge locations, and that's also basically delivering services to enterprises and companies of all sizes in 200 or more countries. So it's a really, really exciting announcement for us as we add Malaysia to that cadre of Google Cloud, public cloud regions. So I also want to talk a little bit about perhaps some of the other investments that we've made, because this is really about complementing the hard work that the team has done here on the ground. Now, we have some existing infrastructure investments that are quite important to us and quite important to our customers. For example, we have a dedicated cloud interconnect locations in both Cyberjaya as well as KL, and they provide direct connections between an organization's on-premises network and Google Cloud's global network. Secondly, we've just signed earlier this year the Cloud Framework Agreement with the Malaysia government, and that's to advance public sector innovation. Additionally, we have a growing network of local channel partners, and these are all names that you should recognize. Partners like CloudMile, Pointstar, Matrix Connection, and KPMG. And of course, we have global systems integrators like Accenture, Deloitte, HCL Technologies, and NTT Data. And these are really trusted partners of ours who provide technology consultancy services and facilitate the seamless implementation of our technology solutions. And then the final thing that I want to share, again, a program that we're really proud of, is the Google for Startups Cloud program, which is already available here in Malaysia, and it covers the cloud costs for $100,000 for 2 years to help investor-backed early-stage startup founders in Malaysia to scale their businesses. So again, a really exciting program. So these are just some of the additional investments that we've made inside Malaysia, and something that we are going to be complementing with our public cloud infrastructure investment. So in summary, of course, Malaysia is a very strategic market for Google Cloud. It's been a market that we've been eyeing for some time, and when we think about the digitization and consumerization of services, as well as the government initiatives, we feel now is the right time to be announcing this investment. Secondly, we've been gaining mind share and market share with large enterprises operating in regulated industries. You've heard some examples from me here today, but we also have companies like Affin Bank, Axiata Group, Capital A, who you'll hear from here in a minute, Media Prima, and many, many other brands that we can share with you. And these are all brands that have selected Google Cloud to transform and create new competitive advantage. And finally, we are investing in local infrastructure, partnerships, programs, and partnering with the government to help local organizations accelerate innovation closer to home and seize new opportunities within Malaysia and Southeast Asia. So thank you very much for your time today. I'm very, very excited about today's announcement. And with that, I'll turn it over to our MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rama. For our next item, I'd now like to bring on Yang Berhormat Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz, the Finance Minister of Malaysia, to share his thoughts with us via video.
Greetings to everyone joining us today. Digital transformation has been one of the government's national priorities. Last February, the My Digital Blueprint was launched to complement national development policies like the 12 Malaysia Plan. The key objectives of My Digital are also aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The recent My Digital Progress Report 2021 highlights what has been achieved in the past year, and I'd like to invite you to review the report in detail. One achievement from the report that I would like to highlight today is how micro, small and medium enterprises, the MSMEs, have been facilitated to access growth opportunities through e-commerce platforms. In 2021, 235,327 MSMEs embraced e-commerce for the first time. Cumulatively, to date, 725,285 of these businesses have expanded their operations online. One of the key enablers for this is public-private partnerships, such as those with companies like Google. We've also witnessed clearly in the past 2 years the instrumental role that cloud services can play in helping us respond nimbly to change and disruption. E-commerce platforms, for instance, are fully underpinned by cloud technologies. We therefore believe that cloud service providers like Google Cloud can play a significant role in accelerating the implementation of My Digital. Going forward, we envisage the cloud to become one of the key enablers for realizing our aspirations to empower every Malaysian digitally, which in turn will transform Malaysia into a leading digital economy in the region by 2030. To that end, the government of Malaysia welcomes Google Cloud's intention of setting up a new cloud region in Malaysia. The announcement that Google Cloud has made today is a sign that our private-public sector partnership approach is also attracting the right high-quality investments in digital infrastructure and is on track to reach our target of 70 billion ringgit by 2025. We see cloud technologies enabling the development and delivery of next-generation citizen-centric services to meet the expectations of the rakyat for digitalized public sector engagements and experiences, matching those of the digital native businesses they frequently interact with Google Cloud with its scalable, cost-efficient, and sustainable infrastructure and services. And they will play a key role in helping us move 80% of government systems onto the cloud by the end of 2022, and enabling Malaysians to access always-on personalized, simple and secure public services through their personal devices. This builds on the Cloud Framework Agreement that was signed earlier this year and Google Cloud's existing collaborations with the Ministry of Education and the Federal Territories Islamic Religious Council, NAWIC. With the public sector already taking the lead through a cloud-first strategy, we encourage traditional businesses of all sizes, for example, the retail, manufacturing, media and entertainment, education and healthcare sectors, to capitalize on enablers such as Google Cloud to improve operational efficiencies and capture new domestic and international growth opportunities. Successful digital transformation requires cooperation from various parties, from the government and extending to the private sector, academia, and across all levels of society. Having announced its most significant infrastructure investment in Malaysia to date, to complement its existing partnerships and programs, I look forward to hearing more about how Google Cloud's technology and innovation capabilities are accelerating the transformation of key sectors in Malaysia. I also hope that the cooperation that's been established between the Malaysian government and Google Cloud will continue to be strengthened, premised on Keluarga Malaysia whole-of-nation approach, because it is only when we work together that strong synergies can be created to take Malaysia to even greater heights. Thank you, and have a good afternoon and weekend ahead.
For our next item, we'll be having a fireside chat on the topic, the cloud as a force multiplier in capital A, disrupting the digital platform arena. For this, I'd like to invite Tony Fernandez, CEO of Capital A, to share his thoughts with us, with Sherry Ng, Country Director for Google Cloud for Malaysia and Singapore. Please.
Thank you very much, Tony. This morning, what an honor for us. To me, you are a visionary, a disruptor, an innovator. And, before this meeting, I was super excited to hear that now Capital A or Super App has enabled intercity food delivery. I'm a foodie, right? Here in KL, I can now get access to all the great stuff in Penang in the same day. At the same time, I also heard that now you can make Super App sort of an everyday app with the launch of Games Next. People are now playing games on Super App, which you know how gaming works. But more importantly, really grateful to recently hear your announcement about how you're allowing or you're opening up, the opportunity for gig workers to have a full-time employment with AirAsia, with Super App. So that's super exciting. It just shows how much you value people as an asset. I can go on and on and on, but today, really, really great honor. Like I said, a visionary, and you started the journey and you started innovating and, just in accelerating that innovation in the last 2 years in the pandemic with the launch of Capital A. Can you share with us how that journey came about?
Yeah, I think we're always, I think people kind of forget that actually we were a digital company before many of these unicorns were a digital company. 21 years ago, when we started AirAsia, we saw the internet as a tool that would democratize flying and created the first kind of booking engine that you could book airline tickets on the internet. And we used a cloud reservation system, which we still use 21 years later. So digital has always been in our kind of DNA, and then we got involved with social media very early on. And then I heard this word cloud. This is way before COVID, and I made a trip out to see Google Cloud in California with the then CEO Diane Green to say, hey, we're interested and support us because we want to make our digital services much more than an airline. I said we have amazing data, but I don't think we have the skill set to really monetize and build all these businesses that were in my head at the time. Would Google Cloud like to be part of this journey? And that was the start of this very exciting adventure we've had with you guys. And then I also made the decision to move everything away from on-premise to cloud for enterprise, which was very painful because people have grown up using Microsoft Office and used to Word and PowerPoint and all these things. And there was you know, a little bit of a revolution in AirAsia when I said we're going to go to what you call workspace now. We've had many names actually since we first signed on. And so then COVID came along, and we had started this with Big Pay already, and we thought, okay, now's the chance. You know, one of the positives of COVID, if there is one, is that you're stuck at home and you can't do anything. And so that forced all of us to rethink, re-strategize, and reinvigorate this whole digital strategy. Because when you're running an airline with 200 planes, you know, it's hard to kind of focus on going to build super app and teleport and Big Pay. But when you're stuck at home, you're forced to. So rather than sit in the sand and cry, we decided to go and do that. And then came out with AirAsia Super App, which is really only about a year old now. Teleport and Big Pay. And I think your cloud services have given us tremendous support. I think all along, and even in fact today, probably many of you are sitting there saying, how are we going to compete with Grab and Foodpanda and all these other tech companies? But 21 years ago, people said, how are you going to compete with NAS and SQ and Thai International, etc.? We believe Google will be a very large part of enabling us to level up the system, plus the way we innovate and do things differently to be able to provide Malaysians and Southeast Asians a different way of using platforms. But by the way, the best slide you put up was reduced cost because you're in Malaysia. So we can renegotiate now with you. We took a picture.
Fantastic, Tony. I know innovation is really in the lifeblood. Can you share with us, you know, what's maybe 2 exciting milestones and something that is upcoming, you know, for the Malaysian with Super App and what's going on in the lifestyle, enabling digital lifestyle? You know,
this looks like an endorsement that they paid me to do this. So it sounds really kind of like Miss World, you know, I'm going to change something. But really, I want to say that our relationship with Google has been special. It's had its ups and downs as well as we've gone through COVID. But this is one organization, especially the Asian organization, and I'm not sure everyone in America believes it, but the Asian organization really does believe in what we're doing. And so that makes it much easier to go and innovate. And I think over the next 6 months, you'll see Super App really evolving into something quite different to what you've been used to with platforms. And the key word again in the earlier presentation was personalization. And by using their AI tools like Vertex, we're going to come up with much deeper personalization than what's seen in the market right now. Again, we've got great ideas, we've got great data. How do we make that data and ideas into something useful for all of you? So rather than you spend ages searching for the restaurant or the food that you like, we kind of pinpoint you. And we pinpoint you even with the price, because we know what kind of price levels you are, where you live, how quick we can get the food to you so that it's as fresh as possible. And so their AI capability, their energy is going to enable us over the next 12 months to be able to bring much better personalization and much better efficiency for our riders, for our platform, and for the restaurants as well. That's one. Obviously, ride-hailing is becoming very big for us. I think many people doubted us when we started it, but just coming here, I counted 6 AirAsia ride cars. And with their map technology, again with their AI, these are 2 things that we are doing a little bit differently. On top of hundreds of other initiatives that we are doing on travel and fintech that we're doing. But the main one is personalization. How do we make sure it's easy for you to buy and buy what you want at the right price point? That's what AirAsia has generally been good at on flights, and that's what we're trying to bring in. And then secondly is scaling, right? we're all going through the problems of bringing back 200 planes into the market, and that's not easy to do, right? We've had 200 planes on the ground sitting for 2 years, bringing it in. Equally, on the tech side, scaling up from 20 deliveries per day to 1 million deliveries requires a lot of ability to scale up your system. We could never do that on premise. Cloud allows us to scale up much quicker, and with their tools, we're going to be able to grow much quicker, much faster as demand grows with our new innovation.
I love the personalization aspect of it. We fly a lot around the world, and it was just amazing. I came to Asia and I'm flying back on Asia. It was just like a 2-click process to get me checked in and right into the airport and on the plane. So the efficiency and the personalization is phenomenal. Tony, you talk about...
Before all of them say anything, was it on time?
Absolutely on time. And please make sure that it continues to be on time.
Well, no, I mean, I think...
surprise us sometimes.
Yeah, I think don't say surprises.
No, good surprises.
But the issues of running an airline after COVID is incredibly tough because it's just taking longer to get planes back into service. But that's the same issue in the tech side as well. And having Google allows us to have a very and during sales periods, for instance. I mean, that's what we can talk about in terms of them building up our scale. When you have millions of people trying to get these cheap tickets, the system generally falls over. But since we've had Google Cloud, it hasn't, which is a testament. That we'll hope will happen into our food delivery and our ride-hailing.
Thank you. And one of the things I love about working here in Malaysia is with clients like, Nexus, Capital A, Acton Bank, Hong Leong Bank, and the list goes on and on and on. For us, we are being challenged every day. And Tony, you are one big challenger for all of us here. I think you're very much instrumental to why we're bringing the cloud such a significant investment into Malaysia. And of course, my digital blueprint plan and the ambition to accelerate 80% of the government workloads to cloud is phenomenal, inspiration here. Can you maybe share with us quickly some advice for, what does this cloud investment mean for the Malaysian economy, and how can we actually even propel, Malaysian businesses into the region?
Well, I mean, I think, let me take it from AirAsia's point of view first, or Capital A's point of view first. I've been pushing this cloud investment in Malaysia for a long time, and it's great that Google has looked at this, and I think the companies that, apart from us, that Sherry has mentioned, should deserve some credit for bringing this investment. Because obviously, as a business, you invest in places where you probably have the biggest return. In countries like Indonesia have 10 times the population of Malaysia. So it's credit to the Malaysian government, credit to Google, and the companies that use Google, that they decided, well, Malaysia has a big future, and put this investment in here. The first thing for us is latency. If, no matter how fast the telephone lines are, if they're right next to you, it's going to be quicker, right? So speed is probably the biggest advantage we have. The fact that the cloud is here and they're not far away from us, the pressures that we can put on them are much greater. To say, can we please get this done faster, as opposed to talking to someone in California. So I think those two things will enable Malaysian companies to benefit from that investment and innovate quicker, get the best. I mean, the best thing about the cloud, which I'm sure may be asked later, is that we share the benefit of thousands of other companies talking to them and getting the best kind of advice and tools to be able to innovate quickly, which we could never do by ourselves. It's kind of a big community, right? That, and other companies may benefit for what AirAsia is doing, or Capital A is doing, or Hong Leong, or the other companies that we mentioned here. So, but speed, proximity, having people who are just, well, in our case, Super App's office is walking distance away, so Xinmei and gang can go over or they can call Xinmei and discuss something within 5 minutes, as opposed to fly 14 hours to California and be asleep when you arrive there. So those are the two main things, and I think it puts Malaysia on the map that one of the largest companies in the world. I'm not sure what the market cap is right now, but certainly one of the largest companies in the world has decided to invest in Malaysia. That's a thumbs up for the Malaysian digital economy and the Malaysian economy, and we should be very happy because, as you heard from Zafrul, there's a big need for investment into our country, and Google putting in that investment will only give encouragement to others to look at Malaysia where they may have bypassed Malaysia.
Thank you. And Tony, just in closing for this fireside chat, one advice that you can give to our audience listening here and to Malaysian, how to tap and leverage on this partnership to accelerate digital transformation, to accelerate growth in the digital economy here for Malaysia?
Well, technology moves very fast, and you can never keep up with it if you try to do it yourself. I kind of answered it in the second question, actually. This last question is that if you try and build everything yourself, you will die a slow death, or you just will run out of money, because technology is evolving too fast. And if I go back 21 years ago, how did I innovate so much quicker than the incumbent airlines? Is because I used a kind of a Google Cloud for my reservation system, Navitat. Most of the other airlines had big on-premise computers somewhere, and so they couldn't change fast enough because they were stuck with this huge investment. I very early on, in a sense, said, no, I don't want to own computers. I don't want to own technology. I want to use technology, because I don't think I could ever have the resources to be the very best. So I went with a cloud-based reservation system, which had benefited from airlines such as Ryanair and EasyJet and all these other airlines to build a very efficient reservation system. And that's how we were able to do the internet so quick and scale up very, very quickly. So when I read about the cloud, I thought, well, here's an opportunity for us to jump ahead of everyone else quicker. And so we did. We did it with the enterprise. We did it with now the Super App stuff and digital stuff. And that will enable us to catch up with others quicker than if we didn't. The key word is leadership, really. Someone's going to take that risk. And the risk is always a hard risk, because you always put so much investment into a technology that you've used for 100 years, and the guys using it will be very reluctant to change. Change is the hardest thing in our part of the world, to make a change. But if you don't change and you stand still, you will eventually perish. So my advice is to, try it, because it's certainly, and there's examples all over the world anyway, most of the largest companies are doing it. Cloud is the way forward, because you get the benefits of hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of investment. But I think it's important to the cloud guys as well that cost is always taken care of, right? That cost is managed, because most tech companies don't make money. And I wasn't the exception when I used to say, I want to make money, and I'd argue about cost, and I'd argue about investment. If you look at most tech companies now, they have to raise their prices, they have to cut costs, they have issues with riders, etc., because they're now having to run a business. And 3 years ago, when I talked to Google, I said, I want to run a real business, a sustainable business, not one that just takes money from shareholders and gives it away. And so I think it's very important that Google also, and I'm hoping the investment in Malaysia will mean that cost comes down, and because that is key. That is really key to scale. It's a simple economic theory in economics with demand and supply. And AirAsia is a great example of reducing the price of tickets that now everyone can fly.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. I think for all of us, this significant announcement of the investment here is a big step forward to democratize what I call digital opportunities, whether it's opportunity for people who need access to digital services, opportunities for digital services creator, given the talent pool here in Malaysia that is growing, and more importantly, access to a wider market across ASEAN. So with that, thank you for always challenging us to innovate, to be more cost efficient, to always take leadership in this space. It's such an honor having you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I think for the press here, it is a big day for Malaysia. It is, they've done it the Google way, which is fairly boring. But it is a very, very big day. And it's something that I talked to Diane Green, maybe 6 years ago, I think, when I first went to California. And I thought it was critical for Malaysia to have this, not just for AirAsia at that point, but for the whole ecosystem. And, as we have done in AirAsia, we have not built everything ourselves. We acquired Taxi to make AirAsia ride. We acquired Delivery. So we're taking great young Malaysian companies, giving them the AirAsia brand and AirAsia database to go out and compete. But to compete, we needed Google to be here as well, to compete with other regionals. I think Malaysian companies have to look beyond Malaysia. We have to think regionally. And we could not compete regionally if we didn't have an on-premise here. So two things I really want to emphasize to the press. One, it's a big day for Malaysia, for a company such as Google to invest in this country, and two, it's a big day for the Malaysian tech industry. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to compete on a level playing field. So thank you, Google, and Mark, support us more on the advertising side. Don't only think about money. Bye.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Sherry. So before we move on to the media Q&A session, I'd like to invite Rama to also join us up here with Sherry and Tony. So members of the media, for this media Q&A, if you could kindly mention your name and your media organization before asking your question. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Please.
Yeah, good morning everyone. So I'm Catherine from Enterprise IT News. Two questions basically for Tony. You mentioned, you alluded to enterprise just now a few times earlier. What exactly do you mean? So that's my first question. Another question for Rama and Sherry. Could you talk about the cloud infrastructure investment in Malaysia? What exactly is involved? Is it an addition of hardware? Is it an addition of software? Or is it something which the organizations, your customers just have to turn on? What exactly is it?
So perhaps let me start with the second question first and get a little bit more specific about the actual investment. What we talk about in terms of a public cloud region is really the cloud infrastructure. So there's hardware and software involved in the build out. There will be a cloud data center involved in this as well. I think more importantly is to differentiate between a public cloud region and a Google data center. Specifically, a public cloud region is all about the apps and services that are being leveraged to serve our Google Cloud customers. And so I think that's a very important differentiation here. So it will involve, again, infrastructure build out here in Malaysia.
Also, you mentioned that this public cloud region would be part of a global network of clouds, right? So what does that entail for, what's the impact for Malaysia and also for the other public clouds that are part of this network?
Yeah, maybe I can take that and then turn it over to Sherry here for a minute. So in terms of the overall network, so today we have 34 public cloud regions globally. This week we've actually announced 3 additional cloud regions across Asia Pacific. One, of course, here in Malaysia. Yesterday we also announced Thailand as well as New Zealand. So all 3 of these public cloud regions will have the ability to be part of this global network, and what that means is that customers like Capital A will actually be able to seamlessly have their apps ride on Google Cloud and essentially have that availability across multiple countries.
Yeah, maybe just to add on, what does that mean for Malaysia? I think 4 quick points. Number one, Tony talked about having the cloud here with the small, micro, medium enterprises. They have an ability to tap on the global innovation that sits on cloud and accelerate that growth and the ability to tap on the digital opportunities in Malaysia and beyond Malaysia into the region. There's an estimate of about $1 billion of economic opportunity across ASEAN. So this is a huge impact for Malaysian small, medium, micro businesses. Secondly, with the cloud region being here, we have an ability to accelerate the digital migration or the digital transformation for public sector and regulated industries who wants to ensure that they have an opportunity for secure, sustainable, and scalable infrastructure to meet the enterprise, requirement that Tony will talk about shortly. And then lastly, I think is the most critical, with the infrastructure investment being here. Infrastructure and technology is just technology, but what's really key is the people. So we're gonna, look at accelerating with the cloud employer consortium, as well as the investment that we're making in helping to accelerate adoption of digital skills so that more Malaysians can participate and have a bigger opportunity in the economy in that sense. So I think that 4 points. And with that, turning it over to Tony.
Oh, so, basically all our office tools now are using Google Workspace, which is in the cloud. So we did this decision, I think, shouldn't have, 6 years ago? Yeah, 2014. Yeah. Right. So 8 years ago. Basically moving off what everyone used at the time, Microsoft Office. And the reason I did that decision, which was very unpopular in the company actually at the time, was I wanted collaboration. I felt actually email was a very old-fashioned way of communicating, and I really wanted to move to chat and collaborative software. And actually they had a product which they probably didn't even know themselves called Google Circles, which was the kind of collaborative tool. That was the one that was most interesting to me. Now that's been replaced 100 times, and they've now got Spaces, Google Spaces. So I, at the time, wanted to build a company that collaborated better, because we had grown from 200 staff to 21,000 staff. And that meant even sharing your Google Slides, which is PowerPoint, and be able to adjust it during a conversation, etc. So in 2014, I said, as we've grown so big, we needed tools to collaborate. And while they were very early and there were a lot of issues, even their work document, their Google Docs, a lot of lawyers couldn't read it and stuff. So we actually developed a lot of it in the early days. It's the right decision. No one complains about now. Our collaboration is a whole lot better. You must see, we have officers from Honolulu to Tokyo, right? And so that's what I meant. It isn't there fully. We still need the social piece to be built, and I think that's being built. Then I think we have the whole suite.
Thank you.
Further question here? Yeah, Tony, you mentioned a bit of collaboration on that. Now, when it comes to collaboration, even using cloud services, cybersecurity is a big concern actually. So, how has Capital A been dealing with, ensuring that cybersecurity is practiced, and also for Google itself, with these new investments here in this cloud region, how are you guys going to ensure that cybersecurity is a priority?
Yes, it's funny that I in the airline business, we always say, no one can ever say they're safe. It's an ongoing risk mitigation, and safety is a marathon. That's now the same for cybersecurity. It is as big a risk as losing people's lives on the aircraft, right? And every day you see some breach, leak, etc. We also have a huge department doing it, and we work very closely with Google. I didn't talk about that. It's probably not the sexy part, but it's very, very important part, as you rightly raised. There are no guarantees, but I think by having a lot of your stuff in the cloud, we also rely on them. And again, they can do it much better than we ever could, but we assume they can. And so we rely on them, but we also work with them very closely for our own stuff. And of course, we have a huge department doing it. As I said, no company could ever say, and they would be foolish to say, they are safe 100% for cybersecurity. You mitigate it, you manage it, you partner, and you manage it on a day-to-day basis. So it's a marathon, and it's a continuing marathon.
And maybe I can add just a couple of additional points, and we really appreciate Capital A's partnership in ensuring that all of their data is secure, that all of their critical assets are absolutely secure. And we work with our customers on that type of cybersecurity day in and day out. Perhaps if I just reflect a little bit on Google overall. So Google has been operating in the cloud for well over 20 years. And again, if you think about all of the popular apps on your phone, whether it be Chrome or Gmail or YouTube or any of the other apps, at the end of the day, they all sit on a cloud, on our cloud platform. And so all of the security measures that you have come to know and enjoy as a consumer, we've now brought into the enterprise space, and we're doing that at scale. And so that's really sort of the mindset that we have in working as well with our enterprise customers like Capital A and others.
I think the beauty of security is that if you never know about it, you never want to know about it. It works in the background.
Right. I'm not sure whether you have mentioned before, but what's the actual investment cost to set up the public cloud region in Malaysia? And also, I'm wondering where the Malaysian data center is located. And also, just now you mentioned earlier that the existing dedicated cloud interconnect for Cyberjaya and KL. So with the new, cloud region for Malaysia, so what happened to existing customers that are using that?
Yeah, so let me just address the location and investment question. So location, we are still in the process of searching for that, so we'll share that with you as soon as we can. The second thing around the investment is that we won't share that information, so please bear with us on that. And then the third piece is that the existing investments still stay. So it's not like, these are investments that we will not have anymore. We will absolutely have them here in the country. Yeah.
One more question. You talked a lot about personalization, right? Where do you draw the line when it comes to privacy and personalization?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've always said, was that question to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I assume so. Because these guys are not private at all, especially Facebook. What we've been trying to do is, many companies sell their data, anonymized, but they're selling it, right? So at AirAsia, we have said this is our community, right? A big member, and we work very closely with them to say, do you want to receive this? Do you want to opt out? Do you want to do this? And we try now with Google. It's my big project, which I'm not sure Google is aware of, but a lot of people have opted out. So who wants to get emails, right? I mean, I myself, you're just deleting them every morning, right? And I'm unsubscribing them, right? So one thing we're saying, we want to communicate with you better. So we're building messengers, we're building new ways of communicating with you to make your experience better. But if you just say we want to send you 7,000 emails per day, which is what I get from some platforms, right? You're going to piss off people and they're going to unwind. So what we're trying to do is saying, well, you're part of our community, we respect you, we will send you stuff that will make your experience with us better and give you better value. And I had to change the mindset of my own people, right? Because for years and years, they said SMSs, emails, SMSs, emails. That's, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't work anymore, right? And you've got to provide value to our members, and that value is in personalization, right? So if you can provide value to them in the communication, then you're going to have a much higher retention. So it's really, I take it another way. You know, the intrusiveness of privacy is because you keep spamming them with loads of stuff. But if you can make it that they want that information, so let me take another way. I want sports results. I want to know. Or if there's an election, you want to get updated, right? So you say, please update me. So we are now working within ourselves. It's a mind shift change. In the same way I had to mind shift change people on the enterprise, that I don't want to do emails and stuff. I don't want to do Google ads in the long term, right? I would rather get a much closer experience where people say, please send me, or please give me the information. So that's what we're working on with, in not just the future with the cloud stuff. So we have to respect privacy. Right now it is their choice, whether they want to receive stuff or not. I'd like to turn it around so that they want to be part of our community and want to share the upsides and the downsides sometimes.
And maybe if I can just add, I think Tony's brought up a really good point around you know, our partnership, and perhaps I can share just a few things on how we treat customer data, because I think these are important facts to sort of get on the table. The first point here is that when we think about customer data, it's our customers' data. It's not Google Cloud's data. Customers own their own data when they put it onto GCP. The second point, and I'll just reiterate what Tony talked about here, Google never shares customer data with third parties, and we never leverage that customer data at all in our ads business. Okay, so really, really important point. Absolutely. As a matter of policy, actually. You know, I think the next point here is that...
ads guys left the room.
I think you know, the next point is really an important point around encryption. You know, when we think about customer data, it's actually stored encrypted, and that's encrypted in motion as well as at rest. And very importantly, our customers actually own the key. So every data piece of data that's encrypted comes with the key. Our customers own that key, not Google Cloud. I also want to talk about insider access to customer data. So nobody at Google actually accesses customer data. In fact, there are very, very clear segregation policies around that. Government entities. So I know there is a concern in some countries around government access, and we have a very strict protocol around assessing whether those requests are legitimate from a legal perspective. In fact, we've got a full team, you know, assessing those kinds of requests. And then the last thing that I'll just mention is that this is actually not about adhering to Malaysia standards or Singapore standards or any other country's standards. We actually assess against international standards. And you know, again, we're happy to share some of those very publicly available privacy pieces with you. Thanks.
Time for, I'm so sorry, we only have time for one more last question, so I don't know.
I think I missed the rollout timeline. I don't think the rollout timeline has been announced.
So we're still working through that, and we will brief you all when that becomes more apparent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was really interesting seeing all of you, some with computers, some with notepads, some with recording plus notepad plus computer. Amazing.
Yeah, but Tony, I think when you said you're trying to kind of like influence the culture mindset of your employees, I I think in a way it's happening because like Tune Protect, which is the subsidiary of AirAsia or Capital A, I'm sorry, they are actually the first insurer in Malaysia to have their core on the cloud as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's,
Yeah, we you know, they don't thank me enough, by the way. But both big pay don't thank me in money, not just words. Both Big Pay and Tune Protect, we worked really well with, I think, our best regulator, Bank Negara, to assure them, you know, that this was safe, etc.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. Just maybe a quick summary from our side. First of all, we are very, very excited about our investment announcement here in Malaysia. We're very, very deeply committed to Malaysia. It's a fantastic country for us to be sort of laying down roots in terms of our public cloud investment. We are really basing our investment on a strong foundation of customers that we've built over many years, and we're very excited to be sharing more about this with you in the coming weeks and months. So thank you so much for attending today. Really, very much appreciate it. Bye now.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Members of the media, there's lunch outside. Please join us. Thank you.